All right, so you put in that offer on the house, but hopefully we didn't throw your money away. And hopefully this house is going to work out. Thankfully, in the state of Georgia, there is a protection in there that will keep you from potentially walking into a very, very bad deal. It's called due diligence. Let's talk about what it means. This is Steve, real estate agent with the Malone Realty Group, brokered by eXp Realty. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so sometimes we like to just break down what's going on in real estate. So sometimes we talk about, you know, what it takes to sell your house, what the market looks like, if you're buying, who to, what's the best loan to use, things like that. But sometimes we like to go just nuts and bolts and just go granular. And we're going to go granular today, nuts and bolts type stuff. If you've never bought a house or it's been a while since you bought your house, we're going to talk about something that we like to call due diligence. Yes, and that's exactly what it is. You do your due diligence during due diligence. Kind of makes perfect sense that way. So, in the state of Georgia, if you're putting in an offer on the house, you have the option to have a due diligence period. In that period, it's typically 7 to 10 days. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. Obviously, the shorter due diligence, the better it is for the seller, because the seller doesn't have to worry about whether you're going to back out or not. We'll talk about that in a second. But the longer, the better for you, because it gives you a chance to do a little bit more due diligence. So, we aim for 7 to 10 days. We try to get 10. Typically, we have to go for 7. Sometimes, if it's a really hot house and we got to get in, get out quickly from due diligence, we can do a 5-day due diligence period, and that'll get you through. So, what does it mean for due diligence? When you put an offer on a house, we offer what's called earnest money. Okay, so earnest money is typically, now again, there's no legal, rules here, but typically it is 1% of the offer price. So if you're buying a $300,000 house, we'd offer $3,000 in earnest money. That's what we typically see or typically do. So what that does is it goes towards your closing costs, or it goes towards your house, towards the bottom line. So it doesn't go towards the seller, to the realtors or anything like that. It's for your house, but it's cash up front. It will keep you in the deal. Okay, because if something goes haywire at the end and you decide at the very end to do something crazy and walk away from the deal at the very end, more than likely you're going to lose that earnest money. That earnest money holds you in the deal. Okay, it's a little bit of skin in the game, so to speak. But that being said, during the due diligence period, if you walk out of the deal and pull away from the deal during the due diligence period, you get that earnest money back. So in the state of Georgia, the good news is really for any reason at all. If you wake up and your toe hurts and you want to walk away from the deal, is what it is. In the state of Georgia, as a buyer, you are protected if it's in the due diligence period. So be sure that you're working on that with your realtor. What is my due diligence period? What is the exact day where if I have to walk away and still hold on to my earnest money, what's that date? Because I need to know, and everything will work around that. So during the due diligence period, you are going to do an inspection on the house, or we highly, 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 highly recommend doing it. And you don't have to do it, but we highly, 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 5 highlies, recommend getting an inspection on the house, to have the house looked at. What's going on with the house? If there are no major issues, then maybe you ask for a couple things to get fixed, or you can ask for some money in closing cost type money, kind of work it out to see how can the seller, help you, or you work with the seller to be sure that everybody's happy going forward. Because if there's some things to fix, you might get a little bit of money to fix those things, or ask them to be fixed before closing. If there's something major, let's say the inspector says, dude, the roof kind of looks shot, I can see daylight when I'm in the attic, all that stuff, then maybe we're going to get additional inspections. We have to get a roofer out there to look. If it kind of smells a little funky in the basement, like there might be mold, you might need to get a mold test done. If I had one where it was on a crawl space, but there was a lot of creaking and a lot of humps in the floor, and when the inspector got underneath it, he noticed that there were some structural issues with the structure underneath the house in the crawl space. So we had to get a structural engineer to look at it. So in those situations, we either have to get additional inspections, or we may even have to extend the due diligence period to allow for those inspections, to allow for all that stuff, so in your due diligence period, is this the house that I want to buy? And if it is the house I want to buy, what do I need to get fixed, and what's fair to ask the seller? Now, in one of the situations where the house just went on the market, and there's a lot of offers on the house, if you happen to win the house, just know you don't have a whole lot of hand in that negotiation. If the house has been on the market for a couple months and you get in there and there are a couple things to fix, we're going to ask for those things to get fixed because you have hand in that negotiation. So again, that's all kind of leverage kind of thing. But if it's one of those safety things, we always ask for it. If it's something that's cosmetic and not a big deal, we try not to ask for it. We're just trying to get you the best bang for your buck when doing an inspection. So that's what the due diligence period is for. We always say, as far as the appraisal goes, we wait to order the appraisal until we get through due diligence, we get towards the end of due diligence, and we say, yeah, this is the house we definitely want to buy. The inspection, yeah, there's some issues, but we're going to get them fixed. No big deal. Then we order the appraisal, and we're going to move forward from there. But keep that in mind. The due diligence period is there to give you the opportunity to go and inspect the house, be sure that this is the house we want to buy. And if we're going to buy that house, what do we need to get fixed? It's also the opportunity to be sure, is this really the house that we want to buy? A lot of times, and I've had this happen, I moved, it was 4 years ago. There was a house in Lawrenceville that my wife and I were looking at and loved the house. Loved the house. My wife actually looked at it first. She loved it. I came out there. I loved it. Awesome house. Put in an offer. We got it. Great deal. We went to go for the inspection. When we showed up for the inspection, that house, like, the size went in half. It was just crazy how that worked out, because we went in there and we're like, this house is a lot smaller than I remember it being. And we're like, wait a minute, that yard's kind of a mess. And wait a minute, this isn't going to work. That's not going to work. And then, of course, the inspection was just a train wreck on top of everything else. So, like, it just didn't work out. But that being said, in that due diligence period, even if the inspection was great, if I turned to my wife turned to me and said, we changed our mind, this is not going to work, we could have walked away from the deal at that point during the due diligence period and still got our earnest money back. So that's what due diligence is. It's your opportunity to get in there, take a look at the house. Do I really want to buy the house? And if you exit the deal during that period, you get your earnest money back. If you stay in the deal past that period, it makes it very, very hard to get that earnest money back going forward. Contractually, there are some ways to do it if there's an issue with financing or the appraisal or, something like that. But if the seller is following their part of the contract, you're following the contract, everything's going well, you can't back out without losing your earnest money. So that's what due diligence is. So hopefully, if you're looking to buy a house and you didn't know what it was, now you know. If you have any questions about that and how you can use that time period to actually, secure a deal, because I've had friends who have missed out on deals where they thought about it for a day or two. They needed to get in and do some, get some quotes on some fixes or get some quotes on, what if we did this and that. And in doing all that before getting it under contract, somebody swooped in, got it under contract, and swooped back out. If we got it under contract and then we started asking all those questions and did our due diligence then, they would have had that house. So I've had that happen in the past before. So you just know that due diligence is an opportunity for you to do your due diligence. You don't have to do it before you put the offer in. Keep that in mind. This is Steve. I'm a real estate agent with the Malone Realty Group over at EXP. If you have any questions, 470-233-4409. Take care. Bye.